Hey, True, I'm sending you the update to a story you covered a year ago. He's back with his final decision on what he did. I think it'll be good to update the story. I couldn't find it on your channel, but I know you did it a year ago. Anyway, here's the update. All right. Um, so I actually went looking too. I don't think I've ever done this story. You guys know there's a lot of stories out there, and a lot of different channels cover them. Other channels that you guys also listen to cover these stories. Uh, so I understand that maybe you'll think, because yeah, I read this. I was sitting here looking at this post. And I was like, yeah, I've never read this story before. Interesting though. I did read the update, and man, yeah. So for sure, yeah, I'll update it. He just recently updated, not too long ago. So here we go. Let's get into it. Wife files for divorce, discloses affairs, then wants to reconcile at the 11th hour. Throwaway account here. My wife, 35 female, and I, 38 male, were married for 10 years with two elementary aged kids. The first 7 years of the marriage were 10 out of 10 incredible, at least from my point of view. I could not have asked for a better wife and mother. The last 3 years have been much tougher. We went to a bunch of counseling trying to get the marriage back on track, but could never really get there. I planned countless dates, read and listened to everything on improving a marriage under the sun. It helped, but there was a gap between us I could never seem to close, no matter how hard I tried. In the back half of last year, she blindsided me with a divorce. I deeply loved her and was devastated. I tried my best to talk her out of it. She waffled a bit, but ultimately insisted on moving forward. I never got a great answer as to why she filed. I wasn't a perfect husband, to be clear. I had my faults. I could have done better, but I never cheated, was never abusive, and was a great provider. Certainly, these last few years, I was 100% in on trying to save the marriage. In any case, a little more than a month after she filed, she was already seeing a guy. A month after that, she had introduced our kids to him. Then later, during the discovery phase of the divorce process, she confessed to having multiple affairs, starting at about the 7 year mark. One of them lasted at least a year, though she claimed it amounted to only a handful of actual encounters. I had no clue she was even capable of this. The amount of lying she did to keep all this hidden is truly incredible. The day I found out was the worst day of my life, but at least I finally understood why we had such difficulty connecting those last few years. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. Fast forward 6 months and nearly 100K in lawyer bills later, and she decides she wants to try and reconcile. Mind you, she's still dating the same guy, but she tells me she'll dump him to work on things with me. So, what caused her change of heart? I think it might be because she found out I had started dating someone who's awesome, by the way, or possibly because she realized how much her financial life was going to change with my high income exiting the picture. For her part, she claims it was because she saw how great of a dad I was being when I had our kids. I sat down with her and heard her out on everything. I felt this was the least I owed her after a decade of marriage. She took responsibility for her mistakes and gave a heartfelt apology, although she was sure to partially blame my behaviors for driving her to it. No matter how thin you slice it, there are two sides to every story. I get that. But I utterly rejected that nonsense of blaming me for her cheating. All that said, I do believe she is truly sorry. Ultimately, though, I told her no and pressed forward with the divorce, which was final as of a few weeks ago. For her part, she's been relentless trying to get me to give her another chance, texting almost daily. It's worn heavy on me to see someone I cared so much about filled with so much regret and hurting so badly. I've held firm though. There's just too much damage. I don't think I could ever trust her again. Plus, I have this great new gal who's beautiful inside and out, and who's been so incredibly supportive and patient. To be clear, we met well after I had been served papers. Typing this out highlights the insanity of all this for me. Who in their right mind would try and save a marriage like this? Who in their right mind would even have the guts to ask to try and fix it? I don't love her anymore, but I did love her for so long. And the kids, the co-parenting. I'll never really get away from this woman. It's hard. I guess I'm not sure why I'm posting this. Maybe just to get some validation I'm making the right call. Anyone been through something like this before? Any advice? Update: struggling with feelings the AP got away with no consequences. How do you all handle feelings that the AP got away with no consequences? I lost access to my kids 60% of the time. My house, half my money, my dogs, and my wife. I'm a high-income earner, so I'll be fine, but this has set me back years. AP played a huge role in all this happening. I understand my ex-wife is ultimately to blame, but this man pursued her knowing she was married. My kids cry themselves to sleep multiple times a week because of this mess. My ex-wife and AP have long since parted ways, but he never faced any consequences. Adding to the complexity, AP is a laughably second-rate lawyer, but he is a lawyer nonetheless. I'm afraid anything I do, even if it was as simple as sending him a message to let him know my kids cry themselves to sleep and I hope he's happy, could wind up with him filing some sort of frivolous legal motion against me. It would be free for him, and I'd have to get a lawyer to defend myself at $450 an hour. I lose again. There are a million ways I could get back at my ex, but at the end of the day, they all just hurt my kids. As much as I hate her for all this, I can't do that. So how do you all handle it? Or am I just a bad person for even having these feelings? Update: kids. Wanting you to get back together. I've posted a more detailed version of my story before, but the summary is my wife blinded, sided me with the divorce last year. I tried as hard as I could to save the marriage. She seemed to waffle but wouldn't change her mind. I could never get a real reason out of her as to why she was filing. I got a yarn about our personalities not matching. Over a decade of marriage, enormous financial resources, and an amazing life just being tossed into the trash. Halfway through a very nasty divorce process, discovery documents uncovered she had multiple affairs I had no clue about. I went from pleading for reconciliation to be the one to push the divorce forward. When my wife got the final papers, she refused to sign them for over a month. She begged me to take her back. I refused, and we were finally divorced earlier this year. Tonight, my 11-year-old daughter asked me if she could see a counselor. I told her, of course, but asked her what was bothering her. She said she has to listen to audiobooks before bed. Otherwise, she cries herself to sleep every night. I asked her what she would think about, and she just said, "I just wish y'all were still married. I wish we were a family again." It just broke my heart. I've hinted to her in a very age-appropriate way the reason why her mom and I got a divorce. Apparently, it didn't register, or in an 11-year-old's mind, it just doesn't matter. My other daughter is 8, and she seems fairly unfazed by it all. This whole thing has been a hell I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Hearing my kid plead to be a family again is possibly the worst part. I'm not waffling in my decision. I know reconciliation is a path that leads nowhere but worse outcomes for everyone. That said, how have you all handled this part with kids wanting you to get back together? Update: counseling. Has it helped? Has anyone found counseling actually helpful? When my marriage first went into crisis mode before I knew out about the infidelity, I found it quite helpful. Marriage counselors are great at crisis intervention. They are good at slowing everything down and keeping marriages together. If there hasn't been any infidelity and your marriage is struggling, I would highly recommend it. Post D-Day, I have found counseling to be basically useless. There is nothing they can tell you that makes you feel any better at all. If anything, I think they give a lot of false hope. I find I wind up paying $150 an hour to tell them how I am feeling. They nod, ask questions, give a bit of generic advice, and leave feeling no better. Rinse and repeat. I'm done with it, I think. I find books, podcasts, talking to friends, sunshine, exercise, and most of all, time are all far more helpful. What's been your experience? Update 1 year after D-Day. How I am holding up and whether I regret my decision. I posted a portion of this as a comment on another thread, but thought it was worth expanding upon and cleaning up. It's very long, but it's real and from the heart. I hope it helps someone. Buckle up. My wife and I had it all. 2 beautiful children, a dream home with a resort-like backyard, a pool, palm trees, waterfalls. We had more money than we knew what to do with. I was a good husband, but I wasn't perfect. I probably fished too much, wasn't always present. I could have and should have done better. Make no mistake, though, we had a happy home, and I loved her deeply. She didn't have to work, though once the kids were in school, she chose to. To me, our life together seemed perfect. Then, after nearly 13 years of marriage in August 2023, she hugged me one afternoon, told me she loved me, and said she needed to run some errands. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. A man stood there, head down. He said he was sorry, and then he served me divorce papers. I know many men say this, but I was truly blindsided. I begged her to change her mind. At first, she wavered, unsure. Through various counseling sessions, I held on to hope, but each time, she reaffirmed her decision. She wanted the divorce. Her only explanation was that she didn't think our personalities were a good fit. I was heartbroken. A few months later, during the discovery phase of the divorce, the truth emerged. She confessed to multiple affairs spanning at least 4 years. One was a year-long relationship with a lawyer she'd met through a hobby club. Others were one-night stands with coworkers on work trips. I thought the day I was served was the worst of my life, but I was wrong. Discovery Day broke me. My whole life, past, present, and future, seemed to evaporate in front of my eyes. Lies, lies everywhere. It became impossible to know what was real and what wasn't. That's a hell of a thing for a man to wrestle with. At the 11th hour, when the divorce was nearly finalized, my wife changed her mind. She begged me to reconcile. I'm haunted by the memory of her tears, her voice trembling as she pleaded for us to work on our marriage. She was the mother of my children, and for so long those were the words I had desperately wanted to hear, but post-discovery they rang hollow. I couldn't stay. I chose to press forward with the divorce. It took months to get her to sign the papers, but I didn't waver. It's been over now for 8 months. The cost was staggering. 7 figures in assets lost, enormous child support payments, and the house I loved gone. I lost access to my children 60% of the time, my beloved dogs, and a huge piece of my identity. It's been the most painful experience of my life. I had to DNA test my children. Placing the orders for those tests and swabbing the cheeks of my daughters was an incalculable humiliation. No matter what, they would always be mine, but I couldn't shake the fear. Did her infidelity really only go back 4 years? Would that doubt gnaw at me forever? Thank God my beautiful daughters, whom I love with every fiber of my being, are mine. To stay sane, I hit the gym. Somewhere along the way, I met an incredible woman. She's beautiful, younger, and full of life. She adores my kids and has a young daughter of her own. Later this year, she's moving in. I couldn't ask for a better partner. So, how am I doing? I kept my job, and I'm still making good money. I even bought a new house, another dream home, though at twice the interest rate. I don't suffer from depression. Life is moving forward, but the scars remain. I still have nightmares. I relive the day I was served. The cold logic my wife used to justify her actions. The blame shifting, the gaslighting, Discovery Day, or the countless arguments we've had since.
Some days I wake up and feel like I'm in an alternate reality. There's no way this can be real. It's unsettling. Several times a week, I drive to her new house, which isn't far, to pick up or drop off my kids. She's now living with one of her one night stand affair partners. He sees my kids more than I do. Every time I see his truck in her driveway, my heart aches. My oldest daughter is in counseling. She doesn't understand what happened. To her, our life was idyllic. Mom and dad never fought, and she was surrounded by love in a two-parent household. The divorce shattered that world, and I believe it's a wound she'll carry for the rest of her life. That, to me, is the most unforgivable thing my ex-wife did. Don't let anyone tell you the kids will be fine. It's a lie. I'm starting to heal, but the bad days still come. Days when humiliation creeps in, when the smallest thing triggers memories of Discovery Day. Days I feel like a failure. Days I mourn the love and life I once had. Days I hate the affair partners for what they did. Days I hate her for what she did. And then there are days I tell myself to suck it up, to forgive, to focus on co-parenting. That's the best thing I can do for my kids now. I remind myself often, it's okay. You are okay. Worse things have happened to better people, and you have it far better than most. But it's strange. I still mourn that old life. I mourn the future I thought I had. And maybe most strangely, I mourn the loss of my wife while embracing this new and amazing woman. Some days I feel guilty about that. There's a fear that I'll disappoint her too, that I jumped into another relationship too quickly. But I do love her. I'm going to try my best. Forward is the only direction that makes sense. I also have good days, some great days even. Days when I'm completely in love with my new partner and amazed that I have no trouble trusting her. Days when the past doesn't intrude and I don't think about any of this nonsense. Days when I fish. Days when I'm truly happy. Infidelity within a marriage, especially when children are involved, hands you two bottles of poison and you must choose stay or leave. Both paths are hard. Stay and you become a prison guard, stalked by visions and triggers, shackled to a lifetime of unsettled peace, all while praying it doesn't happen again. Leave, and you must let go of the beautiful future you had built in your mind. Watch your children navigate a broken world and shoulder the weight of their pain. There's hope, though, that on the horizon, there's new loyal, real love and free, peaceful air just beyond this short-term pain. So, I chose the latter as the lesser of two evils. To be clear, I wish none of this would ever have happened, but here I am. I played the cards I was dealt. I left and I do not regret it. Life moves forward, but it's complicated. And maybe that's the lesson. We don't get to choose what terrible thing happens to us, but we do get to choose how we rebuild. I'm learning to live with that.
Wow. Smart man. Smart man. You gotta walk away, man. Someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You gotta walk away. Yeah, kids involved. I know it's tough, but you gotta get out of there. She doesn't respect you. If a woman's cheating on you, she has zero respect for you. I don't care if it's emotional cheating. She has zero respect for you. Walk away.